This episode is brought to you by Portland Distro. If you like underground music, movies, and more, go to portlanddistro.com for licensed merch, vinyl, CDs, and more. Plug in the discount code 10OFF, TENOFF, for a 10% discount at portlanddistro.com. Since we recorded this episode, some interesting developments have occurred. This is going to be part one in Unholy Portland, a 4-part series focusing on some of the great bands that come from that city, as well as this episode dedicated to Murderbait, next week's episode, which is an interview with Casey from Murderbait. The week after that, we got Davey from Dry Wedding, all culminating in a formal Unholy Portland episode where we talk about some of the luminary, groundbreaking bands from that city. Old bands as well as new. Some of the old bands are Wipers, Poison Idea, Dead Moon. You get the picture. So anyway, enjoy the next 4 episodes, and thanks for listening. Hello, everyone. Thanks for listening. This week, Ralph and I are reunited after what seems like a lifetime since we spoke last, Ralph. How's it going?
Yeah, I'm doing fine. My voice is back after touring. But yeah, man, it's been forever. But yeah, I mean, that's actually a good sign since life seems to be going into a more like regular kind of shape, the ones we had before the pandemic. So yeah, we're busy again, but finally catching up and got some stuff to talk about.
Yeah. I mean, you and I are always pretty much in touch, but we haven't actually spoken to do one of these things, and it seems like a long time. But yeah. So we've both been on the road, which is great. You know, after years of not being on the road, we finally have something worthwhile to look forward to and things that we've done. So how is your tour? It seems like it went really well based on what I saw online.
Yes, it was like on many levels it was a success, and which we didn't expect in this form. But so primarily, like one of the biggest successes was that none of us caught COVID on the road. We've like all been very careful before we shipped out, and Germany is still like almost 3 months behind when it comes to like the mask regulations and everything. So people are still careful and are like, I don't know, should I go to a show or not? And for like 2 weeks, I like pretty much isolated because I said like this is the only thing I really care for at the moment. So I want to go out, and I don't want to be that guy that ruins the tour. So I've been careful and like also just went to work and had rehearsal, but apart from that, I was at home. Yeah, and then we shipped out and had like 9 great shows. Played to packed houses. Like in Munich, we played to 220 people on a Wednesday.
Wow.
In a fantastic venue. Yeah, man. And like the promoter said, like he had a band like nothing there. Like a few days earlier, where only 80 people showed up, and he had like bigger bands. But then for Ultha, people came out, and we got so much love due to the new record, which has been I have to say, a big success. There's so much love for this record, and people came out and thanked us for still being around and playing these shows. And I mean, we've been on the road with Unruh, our good friends, and I had to fill in as a second guitar player because the original guitar player couldn't do the tour. So I pretty much played 18 shows instead of 9. So yeah, like when we returned last Sunday, I was beaten up, but I was very happy because it was such a cool tour.
That's awesome. Yeah, man. That's I was going to ask you how it was playing 2 sets a night. That must have been really physically demanding.
Oh man, yeah. I mean, the good thing is that I knew the Unruh songs really well because I've listened to them a million times. And also like Stefan, the guitar player who couldn't do the tour, his guitar style and playing and writing is kind of close to it the way I do it. He said like because he used to be a fan of planks, and
Oh,
so he kind of like took influence of my chord progressions, and he does the same thing, but he plays them completely different. So I had to like figure out like, okay, how do I adjust my chords to the way he plays them? But then like once I had that, it was fairly easy. And then I mean, yeah, like the thing on the road is you have to do 2 sound checks for bands who are both every sound person's nightmares. And yeah, then you hang out, and there was like except like maybe 3 shows, we didn't have any support, so it was just the 2 bands. So you do like double sound check, hang out a bit, and then you play like 2 times sets of 50 minutes of really demanding black metal songs, with just like a break of 15 minutes. So I was beaten up, but it felt great, man. It was just like I enjoyed playing on stage. It's always so cathartic, and so playing these songs was awesome. Seeing more people getting into Unruh because they've been under the radar way too much, was great. And people came out, and like Lars, the guitar player in Ulta, also plays in Unruh. So we both like stood on stage for like a combined weight of like a hundred and almost like 120 minutes something.
wow, damn, that's a pretty demanding. That's demanding, definitely.
Yeah.
Also, I caught you on Jackie's podcast. That was awesome, man. It's really cool that
Yeah.
he's picked up the torch for Ulta as well. You know, it's
Oh man, yeah. He's such a unbelievably sweet and humble person, and it was so cool talking to him. And I mean, I enjoy his podcast ever since you turned me on to it, and it was always like, dude, there's so many awesome guests. And I mean, you just like next week it's Kirk Weinstein, and then it's like all these people, and then like now Ralph Schmidt is in the middle of that. But the response to that podcast was also awesome, and I could see like once it popped, we got a lot of mails from people who were like, "Oh, I've never heard of you," and Jackie spoke so highly of you. So I checked out the record; it's awesome, and that podcast was interesting. So I'm very like I don't know if I ever said that to you, but I'm super grateful that you like had me on or to have me on as a co-host here,
oh,
because
dude.
like yeah, man, it's got me in touch with Brandon, and then we did that episode for the Horror Wolf podcast, and now with Jackie, and it's such a cool unit of people, and I'm really like stoked to be part of it, and it wouldn't be if you hadn't asked me to come on here as guest host. So thank you very much for that.
Oh, it's my pleasure, man. It's, you know, it just made sense to have you on. I mean, it also gives us an excuse to, you know, get together and talk and, you know, that
Right.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
But now let's take an opportunity to shout everyone out then. This is a perfect organic place
Yeah.
to do that. So, of course, we're
Yeah.
talking about Into the Necrosphere, which our good brother, Jackie Smith, is the host of that, the
Yeah.
founder, the main man over there. And, of course, we
Yes.
hinted at the Horror Wolf podcast, which is hosted by Brandon Legion.
Yes.
And I also want to shout out Iblis Manifestations, which is Cheyenne's podcast as well. And I've been checking that out. If you're into, actually, Jackie was a guest on that. And that was a really good episode.
Yes. Yeah, it was.
I actually got a chance to hang out with Brandon on this last run,
Oh, yeah.
run of dates. Yeah, that was a lot of fun, man. That was cool.
That's yeah. I mean, I asked him if he like could take a picture of you guys, and then he sent it over, and it made me really happy to see you guys together.
Yeah, no, it was fun, man. It was also probably one of the wilder nights on that tour, actually, with that Brandon came out to. So it was, yeah, but no, it was cool. It was great to get a personal connection with somebody finally after all this time.
Yes.
You know, and
Yeah.
you know the reality is Brandon and I both live on the East Coast, so you know now that touring is a thing again and we're out on the road, I'm sure I'll be seeing him often. So that's good.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah.
And
so how was? Yeah, sorry.
I'm sorry. Go ahead. No, I mean we can go. We could, you know, my run at dates was probably not as successful as yours, but it was still good. We went out there. We played like smaller markets. We didn't play. The only major city we played was Philadelphia, and that wasn't even originally on the tour schedule. Yeah, it was booked during the height of the Omicron explosion. So a lot of cities were very reluctant to book shows, but we played a bunch of smaller cities and towns, and it was good. It was good to get out there and just kind of like work out the kinks of the set, because keep in mind that a lot of these songs have never been performed in front of anybody. Like we wrote a lot of the material on the record. The record came out, Under Sullen Skies came out, and actually even Monarchy of Shadows came out, and then the pandemic hit. So a lot of the set consists of songs that we've only played maybe once in front of an audience. And then we have, Todd on guitar, who he's just getting his feet under him playing in the band. And it was good. It was good. Now, by the end of the tour, we were definitely dialed in, and we're geared up for the next one, which we leave for in the end of May, and that's
a big one, right? Yeah.
That's a fairly big one. Yeah, it's it's like 3 weeks. It's no East Coast dates. It's all on the West Coast and the Midwest and parts of Canada, and of course that's with Origin and Abysmal Dawn, and so we got to be on point with our playing if we're going to be sharing the stage with bands like that. So
of course.
So we're all geared up for that.
Yeah, man, that was one of the like challenging aspects of this tour. Now was that All That Has Never Been True just came out shortly before the tour, and we also just played one song at our festival last year. So we've never played these songs before live. We rehearsed twice because Lars is living in Berlin and he had to come down to rehearse. And then it's just like when Unruh like asked me to play, that was literally like 3 weeks before the tour. So I had I got videos of Stefan playing these songs. So I had 1 week of learning the Unruh songs, which was in the middle of the week where there was a school theater festival, which I was the headmaster of. So I was in school. Like I arrived in school at 7 in the morning. And I left school at 10 in the evening. And in the breaks in between, when there were like groups rehearsing and I didn't have to be there, I took a guitar that we have in school and hid in a closet of one of the bigger music rooms, and with my telephone, and then I learned to play these fucking songs. Then I shipped out to Hanover to like have 1 rehearsal with those guys, and then that's that. And then like Berlin, it was the first show in front of a packed house of people that loved Ulta, and they all no one knew that I was going to play. Even Ulta didn't know, so they were like, "What the fuck are you doing on stage, man?" It's like, "Oh, I don't know, just playing around." And they were like, "Huh?" And then we started playing the first song. They were like, "What the fuck?" It's like, you learned all these songs and you're going to play 2 sets now. And so I learned all these songs. So it was their like first shows in forever. It was the first shows where they had a female keyboard player. She's also singing. She has never played a show with them. And her boyfriend is the guitar player in that band that didn't go on tours. So she shipped out with like random people from Cologne she's never met, and with a band that she's never played a show with, and her boyfriend is not coming on tour with her. So she's tough as nails, and then we all had to figure out all that stuff, and it was crazy. And then midst of the tour, our keyboard player, Andy, had like a back injury, so we had to drop him off at the ER, and he stayed there, and he didn't come along for the rest of the tour.
Oh, man. Damn.
And I mean, you've heard the record, you know how much the electronics and keyboards are important, like on the new songs. So we were like, okay, so we can pretty much play like a punk rock version of like 5 of these songs, or maybe 4. But people were asking like, oh, will you play Red Scorch the Moon, like the last song on the record, which everybody's really into? And it has these super epic melodies that Andy plays. And I'm like, one time, I think after a set, like we played the first 2 shows without him, and I'm like, dude, I'll just stay up and I'll learn the keyboard parts on guitar. So I improvised, and then we played like the next shows. We played these songs, but instead of the keyboard, I just played it on the guitar. It was a crazy wild ride, but I think whatever happens next, like nothing can fuck with us because we're so dialed in now, and yeah, so it should be good from here on.
Yeah, it's good to go through adversity like that. That always, you know how now you know what it's like. Now you've been there before, yes. And now it's something that's familiar, and I'm always a big fan of that, even though it sucks. It sucks to have adversity in your life, but I think that it's good in the long run to go through things like that to help you, you know,
Yeah.
makes you stronger. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean that's the cool thing about like having like this band with these people. And that's the reason why I decided not to quit the band like in 2019, because it's just like I don't think that there will ever like I will have another band in my life in the way that Ulfa is, like on a personal level and musical level. So now with the new record out and what we created and people giving it so much love and the way we operate together, it's just like something special I truly appreciate. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great, man. That's awesome. So the big
Yeah.
question I have is, what was it like, coming out of like the pandemic and the isolation and being out there traveling, uh, you know, through different towns and being around large groups of people? Like what was that like? Did it make you like uncomfortable, or how do you feel about all that stuff?
Uh, I have to say, like, given my my struggle with depression and the anhedonia that derived from that, I'm always kind of like on at ease. So I'm not really like I don't tend to get nervous. But then we played Berlin the first time, and it was just awkward, like seeing all these people running around without masks. And
Yeah.
we've been really strict, like the first two, three shows, like all members of both Unruh and Ulta, like when we were at the venue, soundcheck, we all wore masks. But at some point, you could really see, like, okay, so this tour is halfway done. If one of us catches this shit now, like, we will at least survive before the tour is over and then go into quarantine. Um, but yeah, we were like, okay, so these are the spots where you should maybe not wear, like, where we should wear a mask and this not. But you get around it really quick, I think. Like at some point, it was just like, yeah, man, I'm in a room with 70 to 80 people. No one is wearing a mask. But like most people were like, oh yeah, I did a test earlier on and blah blah blah. So it's kind of like the thing that I appreciate about reason. You know, like my when I like teach philosophy, my favorite subject is reason, and it seems that the people now that go out to shows, they appreciate that it's possible again, and they're reasonable doing it, and like self-testing and maybe wearing masks when it's necessary. Of course there were like some jackasses that were just like, oh yeah, the pandemic was a fake, and like but 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 these people mostly don't tend to hear like bands like Ulfa or Unruh. So I just had a blast after a while, man. It was just like in the van, like the atmosphere was awesome. We were all stoked that so many people came out. And at some point we were just like, okay, this is kind of feeling like the old normal again. Huh?
Yeah, it was pretty much the same. I mean, no, pretty much no one was wearing a mask like on this run.
Yeah.
I would see a couple people like, and that's fine. That's great. If you want to do that, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And we were in the South for the most of
Yeah.
this run of dates, which, no one that listens to this show, of course, I'm referring to, or, but that's, that's the stronghold of a certain, mindset that I find to be very dangerous in this country. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And actually, I spoke with Brandon, and like we were talking about, just life and hanging out, beforehand, and he was talking about how there seems to be this like undercurrent of people who want to have like a civil war and all this kind of stuff. That's some fringe, but that's moving into the mainstream in this country. It seems like, you know what I mean? And yeah, I've never been a fan of the Southeast, in general, my whole life really. But I lived in Florida for a number of years. Well, actually, for not a number of years. I lived in Florida for about 16 months, and that was enough for me, and that kind of mindset down there. But yeah, that was weird.
Yeah.
Being around people was a little odd. You run into like people that you see that you haven't seen in a long time, and that I'm like, oh damn, it's been like 3 years since I've seen you, and but all in all, I felt pretty good.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, man. It's just like I think like it's getting easier by the time. But what I mentioned earlier is that, I mean, like I watch pro wrestling all the time, and I watch AEW shows, and they have shows with like maybe like 7,000 people in attendance. And Germany just recently lifted, like for it was around the 1st of April that they like the mask mandate and the testing system was dropped, and like so people are really careful here. You have like a lot of shows, like I said, like a band like Nothing that usually like pack a 400 to 500 capacity venue. They were downgraded here in Cologne to a venue that packs only like 100 people, and they had like 60 people showing up at the door. And like the promoter was like, "Oh fuck, man, what do I do now?" So people here are still really careful, and we had the issue that like some promoters were like, "Oh yeah, we don't know if we should like maybe like put the show of Ulta in a smaller room because there's only like 40 tickets gone in pre-sales." And like our booker was always like, man, no one buys pre-sales at the moment because people are on a daily basis. They see like, I feel healthy, I feel comfortable. I go to that show or I don't. And then in the end, like almost every night of the tour, maybe except for 2 shows, we had at least 90 to 100 people showing up. So like all costs were covered. Promoters were happy. We were happy. But I think it will take some time here, especially in Germany, to get used to it, that you can go to shows and don't have to be afraid.
Yeah, it's in the States. Everyone is like pretty much,
Yeah,
moved on from this. But for better or
yeah,
for worse. I mean, for me, I'm happy that we're doing stuff and things are seem kind of normal. Which is good.
yeah,
My
yeah.
my dad actually had COVID. Like he got it
Oh,
right in the middle of me being gone. Or actually,
oh
no, that's
no.
not true. When I got back, he
Okay,
he got COVID, but he had no symptoms at all. He just was like a little
okay,
tired.
cool. Yeah,
Maybe that's where I get my genetics from. Is from him, maybe.
yeah. Well, I mean, you also didn't have like a lot of symptoms, right?
Nah, I mean, I probably got I mean, once again, I'm no doctor, but I'm assuming that based on the time frame that I might have gotten the Delta variant, which hit people a little
Yeah.
bit harder. But
Yes.
I didn't
Yeah.
really, for like 3 days I was sick, and then it was fine. The only thing is like the taste and smell took a long time to come back.
Okay.
So, but
Yeah.
that is what it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
But before we get going, I want to thank some people who recently joined the Patreon Legion that we have. So I'd like to thank Christian. I'd like to thank Andrew. And I'd like to thank Mathieu, who was, I'm pronouncing his name because he's a French Canadian. So I'd like to thank those 3 people for joining the primarily all male Patreon group. So we got a couple of ladies on there, but mostly it's dudes. So
Yeah.
that makes sense to me, I guess.
You should, yeah, sure. You should maybe rename it to the Everything Went Cock Rock or something.
The He-Man Woman Haters Club Patreon.
Yeah, the no man like things like that Al Bundy had, like this group. I don't recall like no ma'am. Yeah, no ma'am, right? Like against the it was, oh man, yeah. I just like recently thought about like Married with Children and how this show could never air again. Like if it came out today, it would instantaneously be canceled.
I wonder if cancel culture is sort of waning these days. I don't know. I feel like in some ways you don't hear too much. I mean, in some ways I feel like people had their moment with that, and maybe are like past it a little bit and they're less sensitive. I mean, there's obviously if you're out there doing something wrong, like like smacking women around or like sexually harassing people, then you need to be called out on that stuff. But as far as like things in and of themselves being canceled, I don't know about that anymore. I feel like there's a little bit more of a swinging, at least as far as, maybe movies and media and stuff like that goes back in the other direction. I don't know.
Well, we'll see. It's a question of time, and then we'll figure that out. But maybe it's like the pandemic, and like in fall we have another wave.
I hope not.
You never know. Yeah, me too, man. Like hashtag me too.
Yeah. I hope not another wave in the fall, because we also have another huge tour that we're about to announce over the summer that's going to happen in November. So I don't know. That would suck.
Yep.
Yeah. All right, man. So for today's episode, we're going to focus on a band that you brought to my attention that I'd never heard of before.
Yeah. It's my pleasure to do this because I think they will be stoked too, because there's not a lot of coverage about them, even though they've been around for a while. They released their debut record, I think, in 2016, and there's like only very sparse information on that band. But we're talking about Portland's Murderbait, a fantastic band that Mattia of Abstractor and Sentient Ruin Laboratories, he turned me on to them because he released a 2-song 10-inch in 2019 by them, and that was the stuff he sent me because it was the time when Ropes of Night started. And he said, like, dude, check this out. You might like this, because he knows we're both big fans of Head of David and Fields of the Nephilim and these kind of bands. And I was first like, okay, well, let's see. And then I didn't check that mail for a long time. And then I was like, okay, let's give it a listen. And then the first song, When the Sun Goes Down, It Goes Down Forever, started playing. And after 4 minutes, I was a diehard fan of this band. Yeah. And then I sent it to you.
Yeah. No, and I was on board right away. It's like I'd never heard of them before. And so what labels do they work with? Because I downloaded a bunch of their stuff or purchased it from Bandcamp. So So what labels are they generally working with?
With no label. So really? Like all their stuff is just like digitally available, and I don't think they had a proper physical release except for the 10-inch of When the Sun Goes Down, which is still available, and it seems to be, from what I understood, limited to just 200 pieces, and it's not sold out. So being on that label, which is primarily like about chaotic death metal, black metal, and like harsh noise, maybe that band didn't fly as well. I don't know, but like I saw it, and I really need to place an order to get that 10-inch from them. And yeah, not like, that's the reason why we're talking about them now, because like just maybe 2 weeks ago, their brand new record just dropped, and it wasn't even on a Friday like all the releases do. It was just like randomly on a Monday. I mean, they teased that there will be a new record, and all of a sudden it was just, they posted, the new record is online now. And I instantaneously purchased it, and it was the thing I listened to on that tour the most. And it's the perfect soundtrack for being on the road. Yeah.
I wonder, like, they're from Portland, Oregon. Okay, so
yes,
there's a lot of bands that, what comes to mind immediately is Atriarch. That's a band that I'm gonna hit those guys up to see if they even know these dudes. Like, as far as like a band that they play with, or part of that scene, that, because there is kind of like a little scene up there of these kind of dark, sort of bands,
And it would make perfect sense if they play together, because sound-wise, they kind of match really well. And Atriarch's also about to drop a new record this year, I just saw.
Yeah, definitely. I hear from those guys every now and then. Max, their drummer, he played in Wolfhammer. He was like the fill-in drummer when we toured with them a few years ago. And
okay,
yeah, him and he's like the guy I know probably the best in that band, just from being on the road together. And I'm gonna ask him to see if they even know who they are, Murderbait.
Yeah, I mean, from the way it looks, there's live videos of them on YouTube, like from some years ago. So they've been around. They don't tend to play a whole lot of shows, but they recently played one which is well documented. So like you could watch the whole concert on YouTube, and it's filmed really well, I think by Blue Heron Videos or something. And they've grown to be such a good band, and they're like all like older dudes. It's not like a new hipster band from Portland, like a lot of these dark wave-ish bands coming from that era, like wearing Nikes and playing like
wearing
dark music.
Nikes. Is that a
It's
thing?
like,
Is that a thing, wearing
yeah,
Nikes? Really?
dude. Yeah. Dude, I mean, we have to talk when you talk about soft kill. These guys, they look like hip hoppers. They have sneaker collections and all that shit, which is cool to me because like a lot of the goth people are like, oh no, how can you play the sound and look like this? Which is always funny to me. But yeah, they're like real sneakerheads, and look, like a lot of these newer kind of dark wave-ish bands, they're more like stylish young kids, and like Murderbait, they look like guys like you and me. I guess they're like in their mid 40s, early 50s, maybe. I don't know, like, or they just aged really badly, but like they don't
They're all
seem to
like
be like
25, but they look 45.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, if you listen to the lyrics, and then that's the thing about this band, it's just like this music is so mature and so dark, and the lyrical themes are about depression and oppression and doubts, but also with this glimpse of hope. It's like the same way that I write lyrics for Orpha, but way more literate. Like, I mean, I always, like, when I write for Orpha, I'm writing in a second language, and I think people that are like have English as their native tongue and have like this guy singing, and I don't know his name right now, like he seems to be a well-read guy. So it's kind of in the vein that also Reed from Bambara really seems knowledgeable of literature. Yeah.
Yeah, I picked up on that, and that's what I really really dug about them. But real quick, you talked about Soft Kill. Max from Atriarch also plays or played in that band for a minute.
Yes, right.
I don't know if he's
Yeah.
still doing it with them, but I know that he was
No.
on a few of their records.
Right, but he hasn't been for a while. Like the lineup is always changing with Soft Kill, but basically the drummer that's playing now has been drumming for them, I think, ever since they released with Profound Lore. So that's this, like the drummer and guitar, like Tobias, the main guy. They've been like, and Conrad. I think Conrad is the name of the guitar player. They're like the steady parts of that band, but all the rest is sometimes exchanged. Yeah, but Max is not in that band.
I should get more into them. I don't know. Like I kind of wrote them off a little bit as like a hipster band, I guess.
Yeah,
But what I've heard is actually really good, and the fact, I don't know, like the fact that you like them so much probably would mean that I would probably like them, really.
the thing is, like, first of all, like Tobias has been in this band called Pleasure Grave, which was before all the dark wave reunion shit happened, and it was one of the, like, some of the darkest, like, post-punky stuff that I've ever heard, like, in that time, and I still love this band to death. And Soft Kill was just like the offshoot of that band. And over time, Soft Kill became like the main band, and all the records they put out are great. And they're really like, they worked a lot. They worked to the point where they are now, where they could release like the last record in self-released and like earn a ton of money with it, because it was praised all over the place. And it's, well, like, I give them kudos because they did the grind, and it's cool for them that they're so successful. They love crazy merch. People love to buy their crazy merch. Yeah, so all had, like, I tip my hat to Soft Kill, totally deserving band. Yeah.
But the thing with Murderbait is that I don't really consider them to be, I mean, I might be completely wrong in my assessment of this, but just listening to the music, and I have like a bunch of their stuff, that I got off of Bandcamp, and I listen to it regularly. But the same way I guess Fields of the Nephilim are not like Sisters of Mercy, even though I like both bands. There's like a heaviness to Fields of the Nephilim that doesn't exist in any of the bands that they get lumped in with, and I feel Murderbait, there's like a heaviness to the music that that is missing in a lot of their contemporaries. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like sonically, there's a density to the sound, and also lyrically, there's like this like brooding sort of nature to the lyrics too.
Yeah. And I don't think, like, if you would say, like, oh yeah, Murderbait is a post-punk band, that wouldn't do them justice, because they're not. This is so much more. It's there's definitely like some goth edge to it from the sound, But I mean, musically, like when I heard the new record, it was just like listening to Wavering Radiant of Isis, just without metal. So it has like these soundscapey songs, very heavy in their sound, without being like metal. But it's so moody and gloomy. That's what I always love, and it's more like if you have like Nick Cave like play together with Sleep and Earth playing Tangerine Dream songs, something like
Wow.
this.
Yeah.
It's yeah,
That's a very
it's like
good,
crowd.
very
Yeah,
good, sort of visual. That's a good visualization for the music.
yeah. I think like when I thought about it, it's like okay, there's like stuff that reminds me of other stuff, but it's I mean we all steal from other bands. Like no one is like reinventing the wheel, but it sometimes these bands come along that blend it together in a way you haven't heard in a while or never. And that was the thing. Like when Mattia sent me these two songs, I'm like, oh man, this ticks all the right boxes. This sounds like the most scary, dark Nick Cave songs, but with a way heavier sound, almost like kind of a sleep thing without being like the metal guitars. And it's hard to place it, but like if you dig this kind of stuff we talk about here on this podcast mostly, yeah, you will get it. It's like really, really cineastic. It's kind of like I wrote down in my notes, it's the soundtrack to the darkest Jim Jarmusch movie you haven't seen.
Oh wow, I could see that. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
funny. I feel like I've reached out to other people that I think would know about this band.
Mm,
Like my friend Lucia, like she likes a lot of the same stuff that we do, and
yeah.
she had never heard of them before, like at all.
Yeah.
And so I'm making like a mixtape for her, like an actual cassette tape that I'm going to mail to her, and there's a song from
Nice.
them on there, so that's going to be
Cool.
pretty cool. And
Yeah.
yeah, just I'm going to try to get those guys on the podcast to interview, or at least
Yes.
whoever the
Yeah.
main dude is, whoever does all that stuff, and that
Yeah.
maybe by telling their story more, people
Yeah.
will be into it. And then also accompanying this episode, you and I will compile a playlist. Just
Yes.
taken from their records. And then that'll give
Yes.
people a good idea of like what the band is all about.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, that was the idea that I wanted to plug too. Is like you really should reach out to those guys. Maybe you like once we drop the podcast episode, and I will link them on Instagram, and yeah, maybe get in touch with them. I'm sure, like for them, because like you said, like no one knows them, and I think they have like a fan base maybe in the Northwest. I don't know, like. The show that they played or the shows that I saw like on the internet seems to be packed and people are like really into that,
Yeah.
but it doesn't seem like they're a band that does like a whole lot of touring or something. So yeah, they deserve the praise, and so maybe we can get them a couple of people listening to them more. So if they come on, it would be even cooler. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to be in Portland in a few weeks. So
Oh, nice.
maybe this will go up. This episode will be out before the tour. Well, probably right around the time the tour starts. So I'll try to link up with one of those guys. Maybe like while I'm in Portland, like I could do it in person. That'd be really cool, I
Yes,
think.
that would awesome. Yeah, please do so. That would be awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess like as much as I do love dark wave music, like straight up bands that are embracing that by the numbers
Yeah.
sound, I really like bands that kind of take influences from it and extrapolate on that. Like for example, these
Yeah.
guys, and I mentioned
Yeah.
Atriarch earlier, and
Yeah.
Atriarch very goth sounding, but also very black metal and very doom sounding. So
Yeah.
yeah, it'd be great if I wonder if
Yeah.
it'd be great to see both of these bands play side by side, I think.
Yeah. You know what band came to my mind first when Matthias sent me them? Was that band Alaric, which people seem to have forgotten about.
That's another guy that I'm going to try to get him on the podcast. Sean, the
Yeah.
singer. I met him a number of years ago when we were playing in San Francisco, and
Yeah.
yeah, those three bands like they're like older guys who've been around. Like
Yeah.
he was in Dead and Gone, which is like another one of my
Yes.
favorites. And
Yeah.
there's the split between Alaric and and Atriarch, which came out a while back, and that's how I was introduced to them.
Yeah, and that's the same. Like when I first heard Ugly Crowds of Alaric back then, when it came, I think it was a $20 spin. I think, yes. I don't know, but like someone posted it, and I'm like, okay, I'll dig the artwork, and like from the description, it sounds like something I'd be into. And then I remember, like, man, I played that first song, I'm like, holy shit, this is amazing. And then that first record they put out is great, and I had the same feeling with Murderbait, and I'm like Road to Matia, yeah, man, this ticks all the right boxes, yeah.
You know, it's funny because Alaric's record that came out after that was on Neurot, and I almost feel
Yes.
like Murderbait would fit perfectly on a label like that.
Yeah, of course, yeah, that would be hands down like the perfect fit, yeah. I don't know, man. I don't know. People seem to be more careful with signing like bands that are off brand. I mean, I had like a talk with like a bunch of people that play like in more post-punkish or alternative bands being on metal labels, and they say like it doesn't sell anything at the moment, and so they're all trying to find labels that are more suiting to their music. I don't know, maybe that's a side effect of the pandemic, that people are like, okay, I just want to have like, if I go to Profound Lore, I just want to have death metal. I have no idea.
Well, Profound Lore actually seems to be opening up their their bandwidth, because they put out the Photocrime record, and also Bunwell's new record is on Profound Lore.
Yeah. That's also like when I remember when Relapse started to be like, not the okay, we have Suffocation, we have Burnt by the Sun, and all these crazy ass bands. Well, then they all of a sudden had like True Widow and Nothing and Horseback and all these bands. And I think that makes the label, to me, way more appealing if they're like have cool bands that share like a similar vibe, but are not necessarily all the same music. But I don't know, man. It's just like I have no idea about the consuming like habits of people right now. For me, it's like everything is still the same. If a band is cool and the band label is not complete horseshit, like I'll buy it.
I could see Profound Lore being interested in a band like this too, actually, since they are seeming to expand beyond just playing. You know, because I mean, they actually have gone through a little bit of a trajectory too with Profound Lore. I mean, they were like a black metal label, then they had like Paul Bearer, like a band like that, and then they had, they got some heavy, chaotic, dark death metal on there. They put out my former guitarist's new band, A Return, like they're on Profound Lore, so they are a little bit more diverse than, say, like maybe like a Season of Mist or something like that.
Yeah. But even Season of Mist, that in that hype phase some years back when all the big labels needed to have one post-punk band, they signed Aspen and the Witch, our good friends from Great Britain, who were like in their approach to music also heavy, but like super fragile and not metal at all. But then all of a sudden they were in between like all these black metal bands. And I still to this day have no idea if this actually like made sense for like both the label and the band financially. But it was interesting to see like back then, like all of a sudden like Soft Kill and Photocrime were on Profound Lore, and Aspen and the Witch was on Season of Mist. And like everybody tried to sign like this one or two post-punk bands that they had. I don't know if that concept made sense. But yeah, like I'm not a fan of festivals that are all the same bands all the time, and also not of label that just release the same record all over the place all the time.
Yeah, definitely. What's that band you mentioned from UK? I don't know if I'm familiar with them.
From the UK, Aspen and the Witch. Yes, it's a three-piece band from Brighton, and they started out just like there was a female singer and two guys. They were playing guitar and just had drum computers, but then they changed it around a bit. And Rachel, the singer, she sang on Converging Sins, our second record. And to me, she has the most amazing female voice in a band that I've ever heard. Like, she's my favorite female singer in a band that I've ever heard. And when I was a huge fan of them for years, and then I got to meet them at a festival, was talking to her, and she was super nice, and we became friends. And then she opted to, like, she said, like, yeah, I'll sing on one of your songs. And to me, that was like one of the absolute highlights of whatever I wrote. They're still around. They're like, they've stayed in Berlin for a while now. They're back in the UK. It's really interesting, gloomy, dark pop music in a way. Super heavy sometimes. It's not post-punk. It's not goth or something, but it's very melancholic, very gloomy. And so again, everything that you and I are into. I wonder,
I should
like,
check it
did I
out.
never tell you? Yeah, I've never told you about them.
The
I think
name
just figured.
rings a bell. You might have mentioned them to me.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna go and check it out because it sounds great.
Yes.
And lately I've really been into female vocalists. And
Yeah.
but my favorite is Sarah Timms. She's my favorite female singer.
Yeah.
And as well as Larissa Iceglass from Lebanon, Hanover. Which is like that just demonstrate like how shot and like out of touch I am with anything that I thought like I knew something about that band that and everyone else seems to know about them besides me. So but hey, now I have another band that I've been obsessed with for the last 2 weeks, and
Yeah.
But you were telling me that they're like a big band in like the dark wave kind of world.
Yes. Yeah. I saw Lebanon Hanover. Oh, dude, like it was like shortly after I moved to Cologne. I saw them the first time on their first record together with Tropics of Cancer, another great band, in a venue playing to maybe 40 people. But now it seems like they play Cologne twice a year and pack like a house of 500 people. They're like the absolute gods of like this newer goth movement, and they're an excellent band and also rightfully deserve to be big. But they're a huge number here in Europe.
And I mean, they've been around for over 10 years. It seems like.
Yes.
Yeah, because I've been exploring their entire catalog. I bought like a bunch of their stuff off of Bandcamp, and I think I ordered a T-shirt, like all that kind of stuff. So
yeah.
And
they released a lot of stuff in that time.
Yeah, they're literally the most European band I've ever seen, like visually. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like there's that one particular video I sent for the single, The Last Thing, and I'm like, there's no possible way these two people could be, or anything about this could take place in the United States. It's just so European.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. And that's also the name. Like Hannover is like a city in Germany. Like when I first saw the name, I was like, that's a very obscure name. But yeah, okay, cool, take it. And then it's just the imagery it's like sometimes it's like kind of like Urfaust, like it's like or Dolch, like you just, some bands just have the luck of nailing everything they do, like hitting the right nerves with the right merchandise and the right appearance.
Yeah.
And then they become stars. And Lebanon Hanover, like they did everything right. Yeah.
Now, ironically, the name is taken from a town in New Hampshire, apparently.
Oh, okay.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
You have a Swiss lady living in Germany, a British guy, and the name of the band is derived from a town in New Hampshire.
Yeah. And also Lebanon is like this place with a lot of wars, and then Hanover is just some random shitty German city. So you have like a broad mix of things there to unpack.
I've been to Hanover before. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I believe the Scorpions are from Hanover.
I think so. Yeah. I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
But we're drifting apart here. So let's give a final shout out to Murderbait. I think we should.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this all is related though, and it all kind of like coagulates into some kind of atmosphere about the band. But yeah, so definitely check them out. I'm going to look into getting them as guests or whoever does their main, whoever the mouthpiece of the band is. I'm going to try to get him on the show. Yeah. Maybe it'll even be live and in person, hopefully, when I'm out there in Portland. And and yeah, we're going to put together this playlist. So one quick thing. I've been trying to figure out a way to incorporate the playlist into the Patreon posts because there's a little bit of a challenge of putting like outside links like that into an audio post. So so you guys just gonna have to bear with me. You know, I'm trying to figure that out. But the posts on the Spotify playlist always go up on our Facebook page. You always get access to them through the Instagram stories, like that kind of stuff. And also, I guess really, if you guys want to just follow me on Spotify, I do all kinds of playlists. You know, there's like, you know, stuff that all the show playlists are up there. There's other random things that I'll do on a personal level. So if you want to find me on Spotify, that's another way to get access to all this stuff.
Yeah, my favorite one of these playlists being Mike Sill's Straight Edge Youth Crew playlist. It's like there's only good stuff in there.
You know, I got to be honest, man. I'm not a fan of that kind of music, really.
Really? That's a surprise. I think we never talked about this on here.
Yeah, I mean, my friend Morgan, who Morgan is like, he always calls me out on this stuff about how I hate hardcore, and I'm like, well, what is there to like about it? You know what I mean? It's like, I like some bands. You know, I like Integrity. I like, Minor Threat, Black Flag. Yeah. But I'm not into hardcore music necessarily. You know?
Yeah, but the thing is that it's always difficult when people say like, yeah, Ultha is a band of like hardcore kids playing black metal. It's like you have to differentiate between the hardcore, because like for most metalheads that's Madball. And then it's like maybe some posy core, like they call it here. So like this positive youth crew stuff, but like the stick that like Ringworm and Starkweather, they're considered being hardcore bands, but like they're more like metallic hardcore or even like metal. Yeah, and that's like the kind of hardcore scene that we come from. I mean, that's the scene that Anodyne played when they were around, and that Planks played. But like none of our old bands sounded like Youth of Today or Gorilla Biscuits. Yeah.
Nah, to me that kind of music is just like by the numbers, uniform. You got to wear like a Champions hoodie, and I'm just not into it, man. Like I'm not in. I even at my youngest, most impressionable days, I was still just listening to like Black Flag and like at the time the Cro-Mags were like a band, but those are just like a bunch of criminals that just make music, really, So that's that I don't know. I've always been more into that, like anything that had to do with community or like positive vibes. Like none of that shit ever really reached me, Like I don't even really like Fugazi for that reason, to be honest. I like Repeater, that one record by them, but I'm not into the whole Discord, let's all help each other kind of thing. I don't know. It's just me,
Yeah, it's also like Fugazi has some great songs, but like over a whole record, and we never did a thing. Like I was never a big fan of a whole record. I've never seen them live, and I think live it could have been cool. But I see what you mean with the Discord stuff. Like there's some bands on there that I like, but in generally that's also not like the kind of stuff I'm into. No.
The band that I like on Discord, I like two bands. My two favorite Discord bands is Rites of Spring and Beefeater.
Okay, yeah.
And no one ever. That's Beefeater. Apparently, no one likes that band, but I think they're great. And Rites of Spring, that's like the best, in my opinion, the best Discord release is the Rites of Spring records.
Did the Faith Void Split come out on Discord?
Oh yeah, that's a good one too.
Yeah. But that's like hardcore. Yeah. So I dig that. Void is amazing.
Yeah, definitely. And so I don't know. I don't know if Morgan routinely listens to this show, so I'm sure he's going to have. I'm going to get when this comes out of context. When this show goes up, I'm going to get a text message from him about what I just said about hardcore music.
Was he the guy from Kill the Client that was also in the Decipher video where you had to guess the logos like Tombs?
Yep,
and Kill
exactly.
The Client?
Yep. Yeah. He's from Kill the Client. He also plays in an excellent band called Black Ops. As much as Morgan makes fun of me because I don't like hardcore the way he likes it. I like hardcore per se. In a way, I like it, but I just don't like it the way he likes it.
Yeah.
But I'll back him on everything he does because he's incredible as like creative guy. Like he's learned how to do all this electronic stuff that he does in Black Ops, and Black Ops are a great band. And So, I back him, man. I don't know. That's just the way it goes.
And we back Murderbait, and you guys should listen to it. I mean, we talked about a lot of the reference bands, and if you trust our opinion, you will instantaneously after this episode go on Spotify or Bandcamp and check them out and give these guys some money, because they need to be a bigger band that more people know about. So if you're into like dark crowd, dark space rock, psychedelic, Earth, Nick Cave, Tangerine Dream, all these kind of bands, Murderbait will be right up your alley.
Awesome. Yeah, and check out the playlist. And also, real quick, we never talk about our Instagram account, which is relatively new. Any longtime listeners will probably follow me personally on Instagram, but we have an Instagram that's dedicated to the show now. So seek it out and follow, and we're going to be having some stuff on there that's exclusive to that account. So definitely check it out.
Yes, cool.